Chad Evans back in the studio again with my very good friend, Just Dena.
Hi, Chad.
This is exciting. We have a real life interior designer.
Yes, right
in the
here.
Studio. And you've been in the industry for a long time.
A long time, 43 years.
That's amazing. Now, was it all here in central Pennsylvania? Or?
Actually, yes.
Really? Mm-hmm. This is where, so are you from the area?
I'm actually from Benton, which is north of Bloomsburg a little bit. But I've lived in Bloomsburg most of my life, was in this area, the Sunbury area for a while, and now I'm back in the Bloomsburg area. I live in Catawissa.
Well, welcome to the party. We're happy to have you. So how did this whole thing start? Did you, growing up as a kid, did you want to be an interior designer? Did you fall into this? Tell us the story of how you got into being an interior designer.
Well, actually, I wanted to be a landscape designer.
Landscape designer,
yes.
Okay.
So I actually went to school for landscape designer and floral design. And I went to what is now Penn Tech, but it used to be WAC back in the day. And that's what my degree is in. But I feel that, and I did not get a job in that particular profession because it was in the early 80s. And I ended up in the furniture and interior design business very early on in the, like about 83, 84, I got into it because I couldn't find a job in the landscape industry.
Sure.
And I basically feel as a designer, whether you're doing floral arranging, you're doing landscaping, or you're doing furniture and interiors, it's the same concept. It's putting color and shape and texture together and making it pleasing to the eye.
Right. That's simple, but it's not simple.
No.
That's why people hire you to come in and
Correct.
do the job.
Correct.
Do you have, I wanted to ask you this, do you have a certain design style that you like to go to? Like, is there like a signature Just Dena style?
No, other than I always tell my customers I'm going to push the envelope a little bit and push them out of their comfort zone. I like to take a person's or persons designs and bring it to the next level. Like I always tell them it's their home and it's their money. I'm just here to help them spend their money wisely and give them that little bit of edge, just one little bit. I find that people, like if somebody's into neutrals, they stick with one color and that's all they do. Well, neutral can be a lot of things. Black is a neutral, white's a neutral, tan's a neutral, but it's the texture and the shades that you put together. And I think my eye for color is one of my fortes, selecting the color combinations. And that's where I ask them to stretch.
It's like a superpower because really, when my wife and I were building our house 15 years ago, I could not decide on a doorknob. I cannot decide on a color. I cannot design on I can't decide on a design.
Well, most people are like that, Chad, because most people are so afraid to make the decision and make the jump. And that's where I come in. I take that pressure off of them and I make sure that it's okay. Or give them the confidence that it's okay. And they can do something different. Like most of the people have a good base. They just don't know how to enhance it. And that's where I come in to help them do that.
Okay, so here we are in 2025. What are some of the trends going on right now? Maybe specifically here in Central PA.
Well, a lot of the trends right now are going to richer, deeper colors like dark green and dark navy, and everything goes in cycles. It's come and gone in all the genres of color, but one of the things I also work with people is to not be too trendy. So for instance, my mother always told me growing up, have a good pair of black shoes, have a good pair of black slacks, and a good black blazer or jacket of some sort, because it will stay in style forever. So the bones of your project really need to be good bones. What I really try to stress with people is don't pick trendy kitchen cabinet colors. Don't pick trendy tile colors on your wall. Keep your bases neutral, and neutral doesn't necessarily have to be no color, but you can accent with accessories, paint, furniture. All those things change. But things like your flooring, your countertop, and your cabinets do not. People throughout the ages, I mean, my generation remembers the sculptured avocado green carpet, and it never died. I do not recommend that. If you want to put an avocado green throw rug down or paint the walls that color, that's great, but not something that's going to be permanent. And by permanent, I mean 20 years plus. That's what I try to help a client do.
Do these trends in interior design, do they change like every year or every so often?
Well, they do every year according to what we see on television. In this area, particularly, typically what was in trend last year starts trending here about a year later. It just
Really?
takes a little bit of time to get here between the West Coast and the East Coast. We're a little bit behind on the times on that, but people right now, because of social media and the internet and every option and every television show and HGTV, they get the trends sooner. They may have a difficult time finding them here. That's where I come in, because I can find those trends. But again, I kind of reel them in a little bit and say, yes, you're going to like this now, but what's your favorite thing in your closet? What is it? So think about that with your home or your design for the room.
Are we going to see shag carpet on the walls soon?
I hope not. I hope not.
It's interesting. You talk about working with a client and seeing what they want. What exactly, and we're going to talk about this in episode 2, about the process. Mm-hmm. But can you just give a couple broad strokes about what is the process of working with a new client?
Well, first of all is the initial consultation. And the initial consultation is typically an hour. That is what I find is most people's attention span. Mm-hmm. It's too much after that. And I ask lots of questions. So I'm the 20 question girl. I want to get in your head. I want to know what you do, what your life's about, more than necessarily a project at hand. I want to know about you and everybody living in the home and all the decision makers in the home.
So they can trust you.
Yes.
And that's a big part of all of this.
It is.
For them to trust you. Have you ever turned anybody away that you didn't feel like it would be a good fit?
I haven't turned anybody away, but I have fired clients.
Have you?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I can't.
It's healthy.
Yeah, I cannot please everyone.
Right.
And I'm not everyone's cup of tea. And that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
It's perfectly okay. Instead of trying to stick with something that's not working, I'd rather be honest with the person, like, this relationship's not working. But it's happened very few and far between over the last 40 plus years.
What are some common mistakes that maybe a homeowner would make trying to do this on their own?
Well, most of the time is the biggest common mistake I find is with paint color. People are looking at that little chip and say they want to do a blue room. Well, what ends up usually happening is they end up with, for lack of a better word, a sports team color blue, like Penn State, like the Miami Dolphins, like the Dallas Cowboys, like the Eagles. Like they're all great colors, but they're not a sports team. Their home isn't. And the color usually, the tone of the color is too bright, where I say, yes, if that's the color they like, we just tone it down. And one of the biggest things is Barbie pink.
Oh,
like that's
really?
Probably over the years, because every little girl wants a Barbie pink room. Mm-hmm. And the pink is extremely intense. And they can do their Barbie pink, but I tend to soften it so that it's a lasting color. I want you to make a selection that you're going to enjoy to be in and relax in. Your home is not a fast food joint where they're trying to get you out of there quickly with all the bright colors. It's wants you to relax, be safe, calm in your own space.
Mm-hmm. We could have used you. My wife and I are big Penn State fans, and my son is a Phillies fan, and we're Phillies fans too. So we did like an accent wall that was red, and then the other 3 walls were gray to match the Phillies. Well, it turned out looking like an Ohio State room as opposed to a Phillies room.
Exactly.
And we had to quickly change that because we can't allow any Ohio State colors in our house. So we could have used you there, Dena. Tell me a story. So have you had like a most favorite project that you work on, or one that you can remember that was really enjoyable to you, and why?
Oh boy,
there is so
many.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And a lot of times, like, I feel like all my projects are my children. I've had several homes in the area that I have done for multiple homeowners on the same home. And when the homeowner tells me that they're leaving, I have a favorite home actually in the Lewisburg area, and I have a favorite home in the Bloomsburg area that I have done each of those homes 3 times with 3 different owners. And I've liked everything I've done, except the first time, because I felt I gave birth to my baby and my child, and then I have to give it away. It went out for adoption. And that, that's kind of tough on my end, but I can switch on the personalities that go into the home, because I don't want to make it for the next homeowner to be something I did previously. But I like particular homes. There's certain aspects of each home. Like, I've got my favorite fireplace. I've got one home that I have a beautiful floor that we did. I have another home that there's a bathroom that was like one of my favorites. But and I had a home down in the Bethlehem area that I absolutely, it was an older home. It was built in the early 1900s, and we did it over more modern, kept the integrity of the home, but made it much more metropolitan looking. And that probably was my favorite project of anything, because I love taking an older home. I don't like to mess with the bones of the house and the structure of the house, but it can be a whole different style. And those are the things I enjoy doing the most.
Where do you find the motivation for this? Especially when you have like a blank slate, how do you find motivation? Do you look at other designs? Do you Google? What does an interior designer do?
Mostly what I do, and I'll tell you a little story, and this has to do with my stepmother and father in Florida when they purchased a new home and wanted me to come down to decorate. And I had a very limited time. I was only there for 5 days, and they wanted me to furnish the whole house in 5 days. And it turned out that it was tough on me, because I could not get them to focus in on something. And I finally, after the first full day, nothing had been selected, and I was a little frustrated. And I said, "You got to give me something to go on." I said, so typically in a house, I go on something, whether it be the countertop in the kitchen, whether it be a piece of cloth that they found, or a piece of artwork. And right then and there, my stepmother, Eileen, her face lit up. She goes, "I want it to look like a Travelers." And I go, "What's a Travelers?" And I wasn't really fond of it. Well, the Travelers were basically starving artists back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, that traveled around the entire state of Florida and painted the landscape. And their colors were they were what I would call beach colors, but very muted. And I said, "Show me a picture." So she showed me this picture, and she said, "I love this picture." And that's where it started. So in the next day and a half, I selected their house from soup to nuts based off that one picture, and started off in the main living room, and it worked out fine with the paint colors, everything. And that's typically my inspiration. That's why I like to go to the person's home, see them. My clients will tell you, I get in the attic, I get in their cupboards, I get in their cabinets, I get in the basement. I want to see the whole house. I always ask them for a 10-penny tour, even though they're picking on one room. And sometimes I get my inspiration from that, because what they aren't telling me is usually what they really like.
That's interesting. Yeah, I remember you telling me that when we met beforehand, before we started these episodes, is you showed me a bathroom, and you said we redid this whole bathroom just based on this one picture.
Correct.
And I said, "How is that possible? Like, how do you do that?" And it's a superpower. Yeah. It really is.
Yes, you're referring to the koi bathroom at M&M Carpet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I found this picture, and it was a koi fish, and I just made the whole thing work around that picture. And that's usually how I get my inspiration.
How long of a process does it take? I'm sure it varies. I mean, but on average, if a new home buyer, homeowner brought you in?
Well, if they're building a new home, realistically, and most people don't want to hear this, but realistic from start to finish of the building process, it's usually 9 months to a year.
Really?
Yes, it's usually that length of time. Everybody would like to have it faster.
Well,
and
they have it faster on TV.
That's right. They always have it faster on TV.
22 minutes.
22 minutes and it's all done. But realistically, like, everybody goes, "Oh, they're going really fast. They broke ground. They've got everything up." And I just look at them and I say, that's all well and good. But let me tell you right now, from when the drywall is finished, sanded and finished, it's usually 8 weeks. And it's 2 months after that to do all the finishing process. And when it's all said and done, it's usually somewhere between 9 months to a year. And that's just from doing it over and over. Now, that's a whole house. A whole room, depending on the budget, the contractor themselves, or if it's the homeowner do-it-yourselfer. Typically, if it's a do-it-yourself project, it does take a little bit longer because we do have lives and we have jobs and responsibilities that have to be taken care of. Whereas if a contractor's doing it, that's their job. The only drawback is, and every project I've done over the last 40 plus years, something goes wrong, something is back ordered, something's damaged, and it takes longer to get in. And yes, it's very frustrating being the homeowner in the process, but in the ultimate end, they get what they want.
Do you help a new client to create a budget?
Yes and no. I try to get in their head to see what they're expecting.
Right.
And I will be very honest with them. Sometimes I'm rather blunt, but I'll say, you can't do all this for this. And I had one in particular the other day. They had shown me a picture and they wanted this stone shower. And I said, I can get you that stone shower, but do you realize how much per square foot it is? You're looking at a picture on Pinterest.
Yeah.
And that's what they wanted. So that's what I brought them. But then I also brought them alternative. Once I told them the square foot price of what that is, I said, again, it's your house, it's your money. You have to decide where you want to spend your money. I will also tell a client too, if I feel strongly about something, is I would rather a client save up for something that they really, really want instead of settling for something less, because in the long run, they're never going to be happy. They're going to wish they spent the money for that particular piece. And then there's other things in a project that you can save money on and still get the same effect.
Yeah. Yeah. If I was always the impression, like, if you're going to do it, do it.
That's right.
Right. So speaking of budgets, are there any budget-friendly tips that you can give to?
My main tip is buy the best you can afford.
Buy the best you can afford.
If that's all, if you'll be happy with that. Don't overspend your budget. And there's things like your end table, like I'm just going to use an end table, for example, a side table. Say the side table, and I'm just using the prices, it costs $300. You don't want to put a $500 lamp on a $300 table. So you want to keep them relative.
Okay.
Like that's spending over your budget. Like it has to be relative. And there's deals out there, yes, but again, buy the best you can afford and don't settle for something. Save for it. Get what you want, even if it takes a little bit longer. Don't be in such a hurry. You're going to have it a long time. And if you've purchased something, it's not like a car that instantly loses thousands of dollars. If you take the price of an item and how many years you actually keep it, and divide it out by 12, it really is a good value if you get what you want.
Do you help them with purchases?
Yes.
To help them find?
Right. We'll go, I just was in Coltmont yesterday.
Hey, all right.
I know. And a longtime client, wonderful woman, and we have an empty wall. And I go, we're not going to put something on that until we find the right thing. She took 2 years ago, we bought these pictures. That was the inspiration of the room 2 years ago. And I just hung them yesterday. Okay. We did all the furnishings and everything, but we still have one more spot. And I said, we're not just, she goes, oh, how about this? How about this? And I go, let's just wait. Let me think about it a little bit. Let's find the right piece. You've waited this long. There's no sense just filling up the spot. And I work from there. And I do that with all my clients. Mm-hmm.
And you also talked about you're almost a marriage counselor.
Yes, I'm a marriage counselor, relationship counselor, whatever it may be, because in most cases, and I'm not saying it's true in all of them, but 90% of them, each of the parties have a different idea. Mm-hmm. And each of the parties has great ideas, each of the parties has bad ideas. And I try to get them somewhere in the middle, and I also take the pressure off them of saying, well, you're getting what you want and I'm not getting what I want. Well, it's a give and take in a relationship. There's parts of each side of the relationship that are good. And I'm here to bring them together.
Yeah. Yeah. Your mutual ground.
That's right. Neutral.
Neutral.
I'm neutral.
Do you have a design rule that you will always follow?
Oh, yeah.
What's the design rule?
Well, and people, or my clients that have been around me for a long time, is my rule of 3.
Okay, here we go, Just Dena.
Okay. Yes.
Rule of 3. What do we got?
3, well, or odd numbers. 1s, 3s, 5s, 7s, or 9s. That's when I put together a grouping. On a wall, on a table, I always have odd numbers. And that came from my landscaping and floral design. A true, beautiful arrangement, or whether it be landscaping or floor, always has an odd amount of foliage in it or flowers. And if something that seems a little off, count how many pieces are there. It's usually an even number. That's when you find something's off. And I always tell everybody, I can't sleep at night if it's in an even number. Like I just literally, it makes me crazy. Like it's one of my little pet peeves that everything has to be in odd numbers. And even when I do an arrangement and I'll go, oh, there's you only have 2 stems or you have 4 stems. I said, I'm only using 3. I'm either using 1 or 3. And now this funny thing is they're so proud, they'll go, oh, I got 3 stems. They know better than to 2, and then they go, and as a referral, the people will say to me, I've heard you only like odd numbers. And it just goes on and on. But that is definitely, I just do it naturally.
Right. That's interesting. That's very interesting tip. So just odd. So when you say an arrangement.
So an arrangement can be like the sofa, the end tables, the chairs. I draw a circle around it or an oval to connect all the outer pieces. Whatever's in the circle, there'll be odd numbers. And that's just something I do naturally. I
love it. If there's, and I have one more question for you, and we're going to do more episodes, and next episode we're going to talk about the process of hiring an interior designer. But one more question is, okay, so there's a mom watching this video right now. She's like, I want an interior designer, but I want to try something on my own first. I want to try something on my own first. What should their first focus be on when they're trying to design their home, if they were willing to go that route? What would be the first thing? I know this sounds foreign, but grab a piece of paper and a pencil, not a pen. Put 1, 2, 3, and put what their 3 priorities are. Okay. That's the first thing I would do. And then visit that a couple of days later, and then a couple of days later after that, and see where you are after you've looked at a few things and looked at a few ideas, and then do the paper again and see if they line up with what you're thinking. Because 9 chances out of 10, it won't. What they thought was their priority after they started looking for those things changes. There you go. There you go. Just Dena in studio, our favorite interior designer. We got a lot more questions, a lot more episodes to go, but thanks for taking the time to come in today. You're very welcome, Chad. This is very knowledgeable, and I can't wait to go home and tell my wife everything that I've learned. There you go. 3. 3. Thanks. We'll be back with Just Dena.